Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first ever episode of The Dark Side of Lorne, which is my new web series, which is going to be a podcast. Now, the first question you might be wondering is, Nathaniel, what do you mean, the dark side of Lorne? Everything about Lorne is dark. Well, I absolutely agree. But the dark side of Lorne is an occasion to go a little more into detail and really dig a little deeper to find some advanced analysis and explanations on Lorne's behavior. Unlike my other show, which is more relaxed, which is A Night with Nathaniel, and my other videos, which are some sort of, miscellaneous videos, this one is going to be extremely serious, much more organized, and it's going to stay on one topic. So it's much more focused. Like I won't go and divague and talk about every topic I can find, like for example, when I write my A Night with Nathaniel, I usually write three things that I want to discuss, but usually it jumps to other topics, so it tends to be much longer. But with the dark side of Lorne, we focus on one issue and we study it extensively. So today's episode is going to be about control and how Lorne was controlling Kayla. The second episode, which I've almost written because every episode of The Dark Side of Lorne has a text that I write and ideas and graphs, it's very neat and organized. The next episode is going to be about Lorne's childhood abuse, specifically on whether or not Lorne was sexually abused as a child, which I believe he was. And I made a pretty good case for it. But that's for the second show and you don't want to miss it. But of course, we start the season with a very important topic, which is control. And all through the Lornography, Lorne he's a slick manipulator, but he's also, I've said it before, but the way he chats with Kayla, there's no way Kayla was the first child that he groomed and coaxed into doing his dirty business. For instance, at one point, he says that he has a job interview the next day, and he tells Kayla, set your alarm for 7 tomorrow. Set your alarm right now. Go set your alarm. Have you set your alarm? And he says that over and over again because it's basically an order. It's basically what your boss would do. And that's the part where he actually threatens to spank Kayla. After the next day, he said, you didn't call me to wake me up, so I might have to give you a nice little spanking. That's another aspect, the control, but let's focus on the chatting control, not this sick idealization of domination and stuff. So basically, he's not even asking her, yo, Kayla, is it okay for you to wake up at 7? Maybe Kayla doesn't want to wake up at 7. His argument is that she's his girlfriend and she needs to make sure that he's woken up so that he will have a good job interview. And it's hardly a job interview. Let's agree that he wasn't applying to work at Google. He was applying for a job to drive a lol at $12 an hour. So I'm not sure the interview is going to be like super difficult. So as I said, he's basically forcing her to wake up at 7. And Kayla does it. She doesn't call it, but she does come on online chat room. And he probably feels satisfied and gratified that Kayla obeyed him, at least partially, by waking up. He does the same thing a bit later on, a day before he's about to come to visit her. He said, go to bed at 9. Go to bed right now. It's 9, it's late, you need to go to bed so you'll be in good form for tomorrow. You'll be in good shape, you'll be rested. You need to be rested for tomorrow. And he lashes out at her actually because he said, go take a shower right now. Go take your shower and be quick, You can't even decide how long you're going to stay in the shower. Just be quick. Go take a shower and come back. And again, it's absolutely trying to control her because maybe Kayla doesn't want to take a shower at this moment, but Lorne doesn't care. So that element of control is really an element that fascinated me in the Lornography because obviously Lorne is 36 and Kayla is 13. Even if Kayla was 36, it wouldn't be much more acceptable, but at least she would be an adult. And it's quite debatable. Like, let's say Kayla was 36 and Lorne was controlling her. And I know that many relationships work like that. Actually, the husband decides everything for the wife, like in medieval time, like in Middle Age. Like the husband decides pretty much like you're going to sleep, and today we're going to the movie. I pick the movie. Tonight we do this because I do this. A dictator, a potentate. So the fact that Kayla is 13 and obviously a child and much easier to dominate because she's a child and Lorne is an adult, so a child is going to be much less rebellious, especially Kayla, which is a quite submissive person. More on that later in another episode. But Lorne, I believe that Lorne specifically targets children, of course, because he's a pedophile, and that's obvious when you ask about the hair. But it opens a new dimension about pedophilia, and that dimension is that he can control a child. Like if Lorne dated someone his age, there's a good chance the lady would say, "Look, dude, fuck off with your orders, forget it, I'm leaving, goodbye." But with a child, and also with an adult, Lorne is not like he doesn't have enough self-confidence. He doesn't feel adequate. That's a point I raised during the Lorne interview with Shaman and Sam. But Lorne feels inadequate to date women his age. So he couldn't show and utilize his controlling nature, which is caused by nervousness. More on that later. But with a child, that's actually pretty easy to control a child. It's like a father. If a father tells a child like you have a curfew at 10, the father he says, "Look, Kayla, go to sleep." The child is going to go to sleep, except some exception, like some outliers. In general, children tend to do what they're told. And that's a point that Sean and Hernandez, the anti-feminism, that's a point where he was right. Like, if a female teacher grooms a male student, the male student is going to do what he's told because that's an adult. And when you're a child, and the entire society tells you to do what adult tells you to do, and that's a bad thing. I don't want my children to do that. So when it comes to a female teacher and a male student, if the female says, "Hey, little boy, you want to come after school? Yeah, you should come to my office, come see me after school," there's a good chance the child will do it because that's a child. And except for a very few children that are rebellious, which is rare and which is definitely not the case with Kayla, usually kids do what adults tell them to do. Like, that's what I did as a kid. Imagine when you were 13, if an adult came to you and said, "Do that or don't do that," you would have followed what the adult told you. Because I don't know, because, well, that's an adult and you're taught to respect adults and do what they're told. But also, I guess, because they're bigger and stronger and they look like severe and even scary. Like, imagine you're 13 and you're chatting with Lorne. I think you would be slightly scared when you see him, like, because he's grown up, at least physically, maybe not mentally. So Kayla, Lorne knows that his sick fantasies of control are going to be like more efficient with kids. So that's one of the reasons why he wants to date a kid, because that's basically what it is. And there's also a recurring theme in the Lornography. That's when Lorne wants to call her, and he never consider our point of view, not even once. Like he says, for example, "You need to call me. Go steal the phone from downstairs and tell your parents you're calling Jesse." He doesn't ask Kayla if she wants to call him. No, no, no. You go down and you call me. But what if Kayla didn't want to do that? What if Kayla, for example, he says, if your parents ask, just say that you're calling Jesse. But what if Kayla didn't want to lie to her parents? She doesn't want to, lie in their face and say, "I'm calling Jesse," when she's calling Lorne. And there's also the fact that there are some people that are not, that they feel very guilty when they do, like, how can I say, they feel guilty when they do something wrong. Like, maybe Kayla feels really bad about lying, lying to her parents. Some children are like that. Some children are very and thoroughly and totally honest, thoroughly honest. But Lorne doesn't give a damn, No, no, go down and call me. That's basically an order. That's like a surgeon, except that the surgeon is giving order to a child. And when Kayla doesn't do it, which is pretty rare, but she invents an excuse, she tries to dodge a question. For example, she can't call him because she's not the one doing the voice for the cover. So she has to invent an excuse. Like, my mom was already on the phone, so I couldn't do it. She's pretty decent at that. Like, she's not saying no to Lorne. She's inventing an excuse. Because Kayla is a very submissive, well, not person, but decoy. So she's never going to say no outright to Lorne. And Lorne knows that, and he profits from it. He profiteers from it. He enjoys it. He knows that pretty much, and he tested Kayla like in the first day he tested her, and since she didn't stop him, he's always pushing the envelope a little bit, like pushing the boundaries of what he can and cannot do. That's why there's a progression in the pornography and how depraved his fantasies get. But that's a topic for another day. Lorne wants control, and I would even say that he's being sexually excited by the fact that he get that kind of power over somebody. But much more than that, Lorne gets very frustrated when things don't go his way. For instance, I have a part of the pornography that I voice, and I'm basically like, Kayla says, I want to go back to bed. I know, but I have a hard time letting you go, so you stay here. Lorne says that basically in one chapter. And you can feel from the chat log, you can feel his frustration because Kayla is tired. She want to go back to sleep. That's actually the same day that she wakes up at 7 to. She doesn't call him. She chats with him, and she said, it's 7. I want to go back to sleep. And Kayla in the chat log woke up as he said. He said, wake up and call me. She didn't call him, but she still woke up and she chatted with him. And Lorne, she says she want to go back to sleep, but Lorne say, wait a minute, I'm leaving. I'm going to job. You're gonna wait for me to be gone to my interview before you go back to bed. That's another element of control. And Kayla is kind of fighting back, and she kind of wants to go. That happens, like I was saying, I want to go back to bed. She says that in another chapter, so that happens twice. And Lorne says, I know, but I'm having a hard time letting you go, so you stay here for a bit longer. Again, that's an order. And you can feel just how frustrated Lorne gets. Like, whenever Kayla raises just a shadow of fighting back, just a little bit of resistance, Lorne gets frustrated and his tone changes. There is no more rose, no more hugs, no more kisses, no more smile. He types faster. If you look at the time that his timestamp, he types faster and he's much more aggressive. And I would even say acrimonious in the way he chats. This is a guy, Lorne, who can endure a very low amount of frustration. And that defends the thesis that, he cannot keep a job. He chat with Kayla for a month, and he actually has 3 jobs in a month. 3 jobs in a month. He starts with nothing, then he gets a job as a fireman benefit counselor, then he quits, and then he goes for carpentry work, and then he quits again because it doesn't pay enough, and then he goes for the law job, and then I guess he quit enough when he got arrested because he probably got fired. I guess it didn't go well with the company. The reason he changes jobs so often, that's 3 times in a month, that's crazy. One of the reasons is that Lorne is completely unable to deal with the frustrations of life. He has no ways to cope with it. Like, if Lorne was a millionaire and he could pay for some, it's not counseling at this point, it's therapy. It would take many years for a skilled therapist to teach Lorne how to properly deal with his daily frustration. Like, for instance, Lorne is the kind of guy who's going to go to work and the lady's going to make a snide remark at him and he's going to say, that's it, I quit, goodbye. He's a guy who cannot take any amount of sorrow and frustration. And it's quite obvious when he discusses with Kayla. Whenever Kayla doesn't do exactly what he asks, he gets a bit frustrated. And he goes as far as rationalizing it. And I highly recommend that you read what a rationalization is, because once you discover rationalization, your entire life will change. I'm going to talk about it. Just to make a quick note, I did study psychology. I love psychology, and I wish I had continued and become a psychologist, but I have other passions. I wanted to pursue other passions of mine. So these days, I studied psychology for a year, and I read tons of study, and I really love the aspect of it. Okay. Rationalization. In psychology and logic, rationalization is a defense mechanism in which controversial behaviors or feelings are justified and explained in a seemingly rational or logical manner to avoid the true explanation, and are made consciously tolerable or even admirable and superior by plausible means. That's from Wikipedia, which is not the best definition, but it's very clear to understand, and that's the basic definition of a rationalization. I'm going to read the official definition from the DSM, the Diagnostic Manual for Psychology. Okay. According to the DSM-4, there's actually a fifth version now, but a fifth version out. According to the DSM-4, rationalization occurs when the individual deals with emotional conflict or internal or external stressors by concealing the true motivation for his or her own thoughts, actions, or feeling through the elaboration of reassuring or self-serving but incorrect explanation. I will give one rationalization that you hear all the time, and that it comes from a lot of Republican politicians, and it also was quoted by the Indian, like not the prime minister, but the guy under him, the head minister, something like that. And he said, the girl got raped, yes, but she was wearing a revealing a skirt. You know, she was wearing some very sexy clothes. So she must have wanted it. I'm sorry, it took me a while because it's fucking disgusting. But you hear that from time to time. Like there's a guy in the Republican Party who said that. Like girls that dress sexily just they want to get raped. That's a rationalization. Like dressing sexy has nothing to do with wanting to get raped. That's a big logical mistake. But you know, when you think about it just for a minute, like I guess if you're an idiot and if you're not careful and you don't check for fallacies, it could like make a little bit of sense. Like that's true. Maybe girls should wear a Eskimo suit every day because otherwise they're just asking to get raped. That's ridiculous. You know, that's silly and it's disgusting. And I don't personally believe people should be allowed to say that. And you know, with official role, because it creates some more pain because now some guy are going to be raping girls and said, yeah, but that politician said it was okay because she was wearing sexy clothes. That's a perfect example of a rationalization. And again, once you know what a rationalization is, and I already recommend reading a psychology book on it, on defense mechanism. Once you learn what a rationalization is, you'll find some everywhere. Of course, the act of wearing sexy clothes has nothing to do with wanting to get raped. Maybe the girl likes to wear those clothes. Doesn't mean she wants to be sexually abused. Maybe the girl wants to feel pretty. Maybe she wants to meet a boyfriend. Maybe it's hot outside and she wants to wear some, tight clothes. Or maybe those clothes make her feel proud. There are tons of explanation. But, some people rationalize it. And it happens all the time. So back to Lorne. Lorne gives one of the premium example of rationalization when he talks about mood swings, because Lorne definitely shows mood swings during the chat log, and he says this on October 13th. He says, okay, Kayla says this before. She said, sometimes he don't care, and then sometimes he is. So stupid about it. She's talking about her father, who sometimes deny her the right to use the phone, and sometimes her father let her use the phone. So she said basically, sometimes he lets me use the phone, and sometimes not. And then Lorne says this. He says, he has mood swings. Everybody does, precious. We can deal with it, though. So he says he had mood swings. Everybody does. That's a rationalization. So Lorne is looking at his behavior and he's thinking, wow, sometimes I get mad for nothing, or sometimes I go from extremely happy to very angry and very sad. That's a mood swing. And Lorne, instead of studying the reason he has mood swings, instead of analyzing his life and saying, what's wrong with me and how can I fix this problem, he rationalizes and says, well, everyone has mood swings, Yeah, I sometimes lash out at people and get mad, but everyone's like that. Where's the problem? So that's a rationalization. And Lorne rationalized a lot. He rationalized his control ideas on Kayla. Basically, for him, he's just being a good boyfriend. A boyfriend, like, how can I? When he tries to control Kayla, Well, it's for our own good. Like, it's okay to tell her to masturbate because she's gonna feel really good. So that's okay. It's okay to tell a child to, hey, go when you're in bed, experiment a couple of times. It's okay to tell that to a child because she will feel really good about it. Or when he says, for example, call me up tomorrow at 7, you need to do that because that's what girlfriends do. That's a rationalization. Like, I'm sure that not every girlfriend is going to be waking up her man. Like, honestly, my girlfriend never woke me up for anything, and I had my alarm, and that was it. So, in order to justify his behavior, Lorne used rationalization all the time. And he genuinely doesn't see a problem with his attitude. Like, he doesn't see a problem with what he does and all the disgusting stuff. Of course, sometimes he says like he's a little bit pushy. He says, for example, do you want me to stop asking about your vagina and my penis? And he says, I can help it. I like it when I talk about that, and it makes me feel good. So for him, it's okay to bombard her with questions about sex because it makes him feel good. And that's because he loves her so much. Of course, he harasses her with questions, but he loves her so much, so it's okay. And same for NBC. Lorne got caught on national TV, but it wasn't his fault. It was NBC's fault. Big bad NBC. So he rationalized that he did nothing wrong, that it was all NBC's fault. NBC did a sting operation. NBC had a decoy. Well, it was NBC, but Lorne thinks it's NBC. So it's all NBC's fault. Lorne did nothing wrong. He's a saint. He rationalized that everything bad that happened to him was NBC's fault. And he even says, yes, I was lured to the house, but I was at a low point in my life, sorry. I was in a low point in my life, and NBC exploited that to manipulate me. That's what he says in his lawsuit against NBC. And that's the perfect example of a rationalization. Back to control, and I think I'm going to make episode 2. I'm going to continue episode 2 on control. So there are going to be 2 episodes in a row. Call it special. I hope you liked it, and talk to you in episode 2.